Good morning. Welcome into 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen on PGA Tour Radio. That is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. I am Gary Williams. You can tell by the trophy over my shoulder. We're not at home base. We're not in the studio. We are in Dublin, Ohio at Muirfield Village Golf Club, site of the Memorial Tournament. This is a big day today. It's Pro-Am Day. It's also Honoree Day. More details on that in just a minute. This program, wherever we are, is always going to be brought to you by our great sponsors, starting with Century Insurance, right by you. Their investments in the game of golf are all the good things with the First Tee, with the United States Golf Association, of course, Golf Pride. Players at every level trust Golf Pride more than any group company in the world. Peter Millar, everything I wear and have worn for the last 15 years is Peter Millar, because they have refined performance, luxury, and style better than anybody. And then, of course, Pinehurst, the cradle of American golf. There's always a great time to be booking a trip to go to the Pinehurst Resort. All right, we are at Memorial. Jack and Barbara coming up in just a couple of minutes. It's always a big day for Jack and Barbara when they are hosting the best players in the world, and they've been doing it now for 50 years, but in particular this year, because Barbara Nicklaus is going to be honored as the honoree of this event. It's something they do every year, and it's one of those personal touches that makes this event exactly what it is. The Pro-Am today, by the way, this is a cold, gray Ohio day. So when Jack Nicklaus was thinking about this event, as we know, he started thinking about, I'm going to have an event at some point. He started doing it when he was in his mid-20s. He had become the dominant best player in the world, and this was in the mid-60s. It was going to be in this state. And the reason why it's Muirfield Village, when he completed the career Grand Slam in that particular year, it was at Muirfield. So it was going to be an homage to that place, which obviously impacted him, meant so much to him as he was embarking on what you could argue still to this day is the greatest career that we have ever seen in the game of professional golf. Muirfield, on many days in East Lothian, Scotland, feels a lot like it does here right now. And at 7 o'clock this morning on tees 1 and 10, we are right down from the 10th tee. And by the way, in just a couple of minutes, Kira Dixon, Michelle Wee, Amanda Balionis, they are playing in the Pro-Am today. They're going to be not far from me teeing off here. Peyton Manning was on the first tee at 7 o'clock in the morning. I know that Steph Curry is going to be on that first tee at the bottom of this hour. Those are guys who have relationships with the title sponsor and presenting sponsor of this event, because without folks like Workday, events like this can't continue to be what they are. And now when you look at professional golf is in a place where we have purses of $20 million and beyond, including this week. This is a signature series event. This is a smaller field now than it even used to be as an invitational, when it was right around 100 players and maybe just a little bit more. There's an extra year of an exemption if you win this event. And so companies like Workday make the choice to align themselves with events like this. And why wouldn't you? Because this event is particularly special. Barbara and Jack in just a couple of minutes, but the news that is going to become official this morning as it relates to the final event of the PGA Tour schedule is the Tour Championship. I'm going to have more on that as we embark on these next 2 hours, because it's not just 1 hour with you on this Wednesday, 2 live hours here on Golf Channel from Memorial today, like we did yesterday, a little bit different time. The details of what they're going to do as it relates to the Tour Championship, if you're waking up wherever you may be and you're finding out, well, what are they doing? They're going back to the way that it was before. Now, not all the way back, because they have tried through the years when they created this series of playoff events to have something where you felt like there was value and there was something you were gaining by being the best over the course of the regular season. Getting there alone is an enormous accomplishment, to be among the 30 players to get to Eastlake. But what they're going to do is what they never really should have done, which was go away from everybody starting equally. Because professional golf is different in countless ways, including the fact that we don't handicap fields. You go out there and you do whatever it is that you do. But I also understand that they wanted to have something where whatever you had done had given you somewhat of a head start, because you can't give a player home field advantage, which is what you get by being better than others in other sports like we're seeing right now in the NBA and NHL playoffs, where home field advantage is one of the great things that you gain by being the best over the course of the regular season. The moniker of playoffs, it's distinctive, but it's not analogous to the other sports. So the PGA Tour, which I never thought the idea of a staggered start where Scottie Scheffler, hypothetically, who's number one in the FedEx Cup standings, was going to start so many under par as it related to whoever was second and third and all the way down whoever was 30th. I get what the premise was, but let's just accept what they are. That he was better than everybody else last year, so there's no reason to handicap him against the rest of the field. What this is, I think, heading toward is additional change, because sponsorship and sponsorship renewal and the things that drive, as I said, men's and women's professional golf. And it's on display this week at the U.S. Women's Open, because before, major championships didn't necessarily need to align themselves with, quote, presenting sponsors. The women's game has inherent challenges that the men's game does not. So the reason why women are playing for the money that they're playing for this week is that the United States Golf Association identified a company that chose to invest in the game at a very significant level. So when we get to East Lake and we get to the Tour Championship, we're going to start at zero, essentially, which is where it should have always been and where it, I think, will always be. If they institute at some point the idea, which was kicked around to the degree that it was reported by Gabby Herzig of The Athletic, who is a contributor to 5 Clubs. This was back in January when she was reporting that they were considering the idea of instituting some element of match play. But here is one thing about match play where there's a lot of people out there, you're sitting there going, I like that, I like that. The people who put this stuff on don't necessarily like the jeopardy that might come with the association of match play with it, because you have diminishing returns, you have less players, you have less balls in the air on that final day, and you also have the likelihood, and it's not necessarily the strongest of likelihoods, but look at men's collegiate golf right now. The vagaries of match play introduce the likelihood that the best player may not be there on the final day. So we're going to have stroke play, so the Tour Championship is going to go back to everybody starting without some type of net advantage or gross disadvantage as we've had over the last couple of years, and that's the story that was developing overnight and is going to be officially announced this morning. More on that coming up. But before we go to our first break, let me just say a little bit more about Jack and Barbara Nicklaus, because I've been very fortunate through the years to have interludes with them, to have sit-downs with them, whether it be together, separately. And it's not only been, publicly, where it's been interviews that are shared primarily here on Golf Channel, starting back in 2011 when Morning Drive was created, but also private moments and going and being at events like the Jake, which, again, so many things that they do impact communities, not only here in the state of Ohio, but back in their other home state, the state of Florida. This is a relationship that began 65 years ago, actually more than 65 years ago. And what they have done together in tandem. And it's funny to see them together, because I remember some years ago doing the Jake, which is an event that they host at Bears Club down in South Florida in the Jupiter area. And one of the things that tickles Jack most is to be made fun of in a way that you are pumping up Barbara, and she doesn't necessarily need it, but doing it at his expense. It tickles him. And to see them together is particularly special. And to consider all the things that they have done together in the game of golf. And the reason why I think that Jack Nicklaus had the career that he had is that he always knew that everything at home, and that's the one thing that we never know about state of mind when it comes to athletic performance. We don't know what else is going on in other people's lives as they're trying to go out and do really spectacular, extraordinary, and unusual things. when things matter most. And Jack was always best when things mattered most. And one of the reasons why was not just because he hit it further, he was technically better and hit it out of the center of the face more often than his competition, and also had a game plan that was next level, is because he always knew deep down, most importantly, that back home with 5 young children and a growing family, that things were probably in order. And just ask yourself, when you feel best and you feel most focused, when there's harmony at home. So the Nicklaus family, their achievements, their accomplishments, and what Jack has always done, which is set a standard that has never been matched really by anybody in all these various areas that he has associated himself in the industry of golf, harmony at home because of Barbara. So we take our first break, like I said, 2 big hours here this morning on Pro-Am Day. And like I said, to see various people out here, Nick Saban, who obviously Ohio means a lot to him. Obviously he coached the Cleveland Browns. He's playing with Ryan Day. And let me tell you something about the head football coach at Ohio State. He's a deity in his state. His gallery at 734, playing with a 2-time major champion, Justin Thomas, bigger than anybody's, because he leads the Scarlet and Gray out of the tunnel on those fall Saturdays. Kind of a big deal. The other big deal is Jack himself. So Jack and Barbara, when we continue here, and much to do on a Wednesday edition here. And don't think that just because we're away from home, that dogs will not be celebrated. They always will be, every Wednesday on this program. Nice to have you with us, not only here on Golf Channel, but as I said, let's say you're leaving the house right now, you know that you can always listen. It is Channel 92. It is PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM. When we continue, the host of this event for 50 years, and Jack and Barbara Nicklaus, they're with me next. Welcome back in to 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen on PGA Tour Radio. That is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. The reason we are here is because 2 people built something that is a measuring stick when it comes to championship golf. And those 2 people are going to join me momentarily. But this segment is brought to you by Golf Pride. When it comes to grips at every level, recreational golfers, elite players, they trust Golf Pride more than any other grip anywhere in the world. And I mentioned those 2 people. We have the bear. You're going to see the book momentarily. All these little touches are why the Memorial Tournament at Muirfield Village here in Dublin, Ohio, for 50 years has been as good as it gets when it comes to championship tournament golf. Barbara Nicklaus, Jack Nicklaus, it's great to see you both. Good morning. How are you?
Terrific. Thank you.
Good, Gary. Thank you.
It's good to see you both. You know, I don't know when it was that you 2 had the first conversation about having a golf tournament, but my understanding it was you were both in your mid-20s. You had won the Masters for the 3rd time, 1966. You saw what Bob Jones had created there, and you said, my gosh, this is special. At some point in our lives, let's do something. Barbara, do you remember the first conversation you 2 had about finding land in this state that you both grew up in and building something together?
Well, I don't really remember a certain time, but I think probably earlier than most, he felt like he wanted to give something back to Columbus, that our hometown had been so good to him. And he'd fortunately been, successful. And like you mentioned, Bob Jones, and Jack thought, I'd like to do something in Columbus like he did for the people in Augusta. So it just kind of grew from just a small idea, basically, of Jack at a young age wanting to give back.
And Jack, you've told me this story before, and I know you've shared this story on countless occasions. You shared this land with your dad at times when you were a young boy. You'd come out here, you would hunt this land. So this land was not something you found. The connection to your family goes back to the time you spent with your father.
Well, yeah, sort of. I think my dad and I came out here probably and walked probably over about 2 acres of it probably.
Okay.
That's about as far as we could walk at that time. But Now, Gary, 1966, sitting at the Masters with Ivor Young, and that's when Barbara and I were talking with Ivor, and we talked about bringing something back to Columbus. And Ivor was a real estate attorney, and so Ivor said, I said, Ivor, let's find some land. So we went around and found about 11 sites in Columbus, and this was the first one he found. Came here, we started looking. We looked at 2 or 3. I said, Ivor, let's go back to the first one. I knew the first one. I loved it. I thought this was the place we should be. It was the direction Columbus was growing. And, we were, I mean, if you really think about it, Dublin was, I don't know how big, maybe it might have been 1,000 people at the time, maybe 500, I don't know. But didn't have sewer and water. We had, the city of Columbus brought sewer and water across the river to us, and then we put it back to the city of Dublin.
Wow.
And so, I mean, that's a long time ago, obviously. But we're very proud of what not only the golf tournament has done, but what Muirfield has meant to the city of Dublin and the Columbus in general. It was our objective to bring something back, and something that people could enjoy and have fun with. Outside of about 5 or 6 high state football games, there wasn't much going on, Gary. But now there is.
There most certainly is. Barbara, you were telling me before we got started here, the people involved here, some of them have been involved since the beginning. And to Jack's point about how modest Dublin was, 2 stoplights, is that what it was?
Maybe
a couple of
one.
cops, a couple of police officers?
Right.
It might have had 2. I'm not sure. I remember 1.
And those people involved from the beginning, but the other part of this, and we had Jack Jr. and Jack III on the program, the fact that your family has been able to share in this experience on an annual basis, what does it mean for you? Your family is always together. He was always coming back for ball games, and he's done it for every grandchild. Now you got great-grandchildren. To share this tournament with the family through the decades, what has that meant for the Nicklauses?
I think it's just meant that Jack wanted us all together. I mean, when he started this, and it just grew. I can't even tell you how it did, but and with Bob Jones and Cliff Roberts from the Augusta National, who ran that, he told Jack when he came up to see the property, he said, Jack, you can do in 20 years what it took us 40 to do. And he had a lot of encouragement from a lot of, really good friends and good people. And I think the kids just realized from day one that it was a special place. And they knew his dad was really, wanted to be his dad. He made a vow when he turned pro he would not be gone longer than 2 weeks at a time. He said, I don't want the kids to say I don't know my dad, and believe me, they know their dad. So I think knowing their dad, and now grandpa and great-grandpa, he's brought a lot to the city.
He has. Jack, 1966, look, you're a 26-year-old guy. There are not a lot of 26-year-old people who have this commitment to creating something, and then when they do it, it's not just the golf tournament. You were very particular about celebrating people who had contributed to golf and identifying people so that you could educate others on why that person was important. Did you get that from your father? Where do you think that came from?
Well, the idea of the memorial tournament and how it was structured came from Joe Dye. And Joe was commissioner of the tour at the time. Joe came out here and walked this property with me in the mud. And Joe was wonderful. He was like a second father to me. And he everything that, I learned about what is right and how to handle yourself in the game of golf really came from Joe Dye. A lot of people will probably say that as they went along. I mean, Joe's obviously been gone for quite a while, but he was a wonderful guy. And, we started, Joe came up, he says, Jack, why don't we honor golfers of the past? Nobody's ever done that, or people who've been involved and contributed to the game in the past. So that's what we decided to do. He says, why don't we get a group that who have contributed to the game to be the guiding light? That became our captain's club, and then he says, it'll take it off of your shoulders. In other words, rather than say, no, well, Jack Nicklaus does this, Jack Nicklaus does that. Jack Nicklaus, I'm not even a member of the captain's club. So, I mean, that's kept things off my shoulder, all the exemptions, all the how we run the tournament, the guidance that I've gotten from the captains has been invaluable. And they participated. They've selected their honoree. They perpetuated their own membership. They've come enthusiastically every year to the tournament to try to help not only the memorial tournament, but the game of golf be better. I mean, can you imagine? We get every head of every golfing organization here. We get people that have been past champions. When we started out with Cliff Roberts, Byron Nelson, Gene Sarazen, Chick Evans, just to name a few that were original members of our captain club that, they were interested in the game of golf. That's what I was interested in. I wanted the game of golf to grow. I wanted the game of golf to be what it's supposed to be. It was supposed to be a very special thing. It's very special to me, obviously. And so that's what we tried to do. And I think the guidance that I got from Joe, the guidance we got from the Captain's Club, and Barbara, of course, is a member of the Captain's Club. We get a lot of guidance from Barbara. You can bet on that. Barbara always has the right flair, right taste of how something should be done. Ooh. So we rely on Barbara and people like Barbara who are not really in the middle of the game, but look at it and say, hey, I think things should be done this way, and this is the right way to do it.
Well, the other thing you've done, in addition to the honoree, is that you've always been so indulgent with people who cover the sport. And so you honor somebody who covers the sport every year because you felt it was important, because people who cover the sport are the conduit to the people who love the game and watch the game and follow the game and read about the game. And you do that as well. And you always have. And so here we get back to you. So in year one, you mentioned the name Bob Jones. He was the honoree. And 25 years later, it was him. I don't know how he passed muster through the Captain's Club.
I don't either.
He finally passed through and be honored after 25 years. And 25 years later, Barbara, here it is. It's your year. The enormity of that, all the family and the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, everybody being here. How are you going to navigate that?
Well, I'm not really sure. It's very scary, and I look at that and I think, me? So I'm just trying to go along, and I'm so thrilled and just humbled and honored, and I'm better on the other side.
Well, what do you think you want to share? I know you've thought about this. Everybody who's put in a position to share thought about an honor such as this that is so intensely personal to you and the entire family. What is it that you would like to share with people about your moment to be the honoree this year, which could have been any year, but it is this year?
Well, I just think it shows how golf touches so many people. I mean, I didn't know golf existed when I met Jack and had to learn pretty fast, and I've come to love the game that he's always loved, probably more than he does, just because it brings people together. Our family's done so many things together that they would not have done had it not been for golf. So I just think it's added a closeness to all of us.
The Healthcare Foundation. Golf is this lonely, solitary pursuit when you're out there doing it. And now we talk about guys having teams and women having people around them, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, they hit the shots. But yet the game of golf has allowed you both, because you've made the choice, because of who you are and the platform you have, to impact so many others. At the end of the day, Jack, isn't that maybe the most important thing?
Well, at the end, it probably is, Gary. I think that the golf tournament is a vehicle to allow us to raise money for children. And, the golf tournament is an important part of it. But, in the end, the Nationwide Children's Hospital has benefited from our tournament from day one. You know the story of how they felt. We saved Nan when she was about 11 months old. Yep. And Barbara and I were 26 years old at the time, and we vowed that if we were ever in a position, we certainly weren't at that time, to help others, we wanted it to be children. And so that's what we've done. So the memorial tournament has benefited that hospital. We've raised quite a few $1 million for it. The people of the city of Columbus, the people here, and every year we keep adding things of how can we do a better job for helping kids. And the golf tournament is that vehicle that sort of puts it out in front. And the better we do the golf tournament, the better things are, the more money we raise, and it's it's a great cycle. And Barbara and I just love being part of it.
I said this, I was lucky enough to MC the Jake some years ago, and it was at Bears Club, and I said it really should be Barbara's Club, because let's be honest, without you, maybe a couple US AMs, some Ohio State AMs, I mean, who knows? The point is, you said that when he was home, he could be dad, because when he was out here, he knew that he could focus on being the best that he could be, because he knew that the kids were in great hands, because you were holding everything down. How did you find the balance? Was that conversations you had? Because you had no guidebook on how to be parents. How did you do it?
I think it's just one of those things you figure out what comes the next day. I mean, my dad was a high school math teacher. Jack's dad was a pharmacist. We grew up in a very normal Midwestern life, and parents were very important, and it was all family. And I think sometimes in a sport like golf, you know, with moms and dads away from each other, and I think they're doing a better job today of making sure that the families stay together.
On his birthday, he was lucky enough he was kind enough to come on my show, and we talked about different things, and he mentioned that you guys watch Wheel of Fortune. And then he gets so tickled when he knows what the right answer is. You know things about each other nobody else knows. What is
Gary, I wouldn't have watched Wheel of Fortune in 1,000 years if it hadn't been that she wanted to watch it.
That's it.
And so, you know, so I watch it every night, and I enjoy the show too. I think they do a nice job. Pat Sajak did a nice job. Now Ryan Seacrest is doing a good job. So, you know, it's great. It's fun to watch. But what it is, you know, it's not about Barbara. It's not about me. It's about us and what we do together. And you know, you said there was no manual for how to take care of kids. For some reason, Barbara says, "This is what I do." And for some reason, I said, "This is what I do." And together, we did it together. And we each had our part. And you know, we were blessed that it turned out that actually we're probably, you know, for the most part, right about the parts we took. And, you know, I'm sure we made mistakes. We all make mistakes. That's how you learn. But, you know, it will be 65 years this year, another month. And, you know, that's a long time. So she had to put up with me, I'll tell you that, that's for sure.
But you just said it, it's about us. What you've created here is one of the great platforms for championship golf that the world has ever known. But beyond that, it's about connecting people and giving back, which you've always felt the intuition to do those things. As somebody who had a Muirfield Village golf bag at 14, and I had never been here yet. And by the way, the first time I met him, he was with Jack Grout, and the reason he walked over is because I had that bag. And here I sit all these years later sitting next to you to say thanks. To say thank you for doing what you do here, but giving to the game of golf, because the game of golf has given you both so much. Thank you. It's great being here. It's great seeing you both. And by the way, it's earned. Long overdue, but Jack,
long
appropriately
overdue and well earned.
And well earned.
You're absolutely right.
Exactly.
Thank
you both.
You're spoiling me. Thank
Well,
you.
listen, the whole family, from the bear to the book, and everything in between, all the little touches that make the memorial what it is why it's distinctively different and so special. The Nicklauses, Jack and Barbara, thank you both.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks,
Okay, we're
Gary.
going to continue on this Wednesday edition here on Five Clubs, live from Muirfield Village in Dublin, Ohio. We're back right after this. Welcome back in to Five Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen on PGA Tour Radio. That is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. This field is a signature series event. You have to be accomplished. You have to do things to get here. And the guy who's going to join me here in just one moment has done just that. And of course, this segment brought to you by Pinehurst. When it comes to arranging and planning a great trip to one of the great destinations in the world to play the game of golf, it is the cradle of American golf. That is Pinehurst. I mentioned accomplishment later on this summer. He's going to defend in our home state of North Carolina at the Wyndham Championship. I'm speaking of Aaron Wright. Thank you for joining me. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. Very well, thank you.
Well, I want to get to the Wyndham because I'll share a little story with you when we get there. When you came here for the first time, and you're finding your footing in America playing this tour full-time for the first time, do you remember what your first impressions of all of it, not just the golf course, but this event, the way it's conducted, the way it's run, the support it gets from this community? What was your first impression of the Memorial?
It was amazing for me. It was my favorite tournament of the year. I played okay, but it wasn't down to my performance. I absolutely loved the way the course was set up. I thought Jack has done an amazing job. Just feels everything is so well proportioned, so well thought of, and the crowd are incredible, very well attended, very respectful. So yeah, for me it was certainly my favorite tournament of my first season out here.
The season you're having, a lot of solid results, particularly in the biggest events. You've played well. Where are you pretty pleased, and what are you working on?
Yeah, I feel like it's been pretty consistent overall. There's always room for improvement, but it can always be worse at the same time. A couple of things actually that we're working on, just a couple of things in the full game just to clean up a little bit of my takeaway, to help with a bit of ball striking, and just trying to simplify my putting a little bit as well, just to reduce some of the thoughts. So it's always a work in progress, but yeah, pretty excited as to where things are at the moment.
When you win for the first time on this tour, as you did, and I mentioned defending at the Wyndham Championship, does it immediately raise your expectations of knowing what you're capable of? Or is that something that you wait until the end of the year and then you do a reset and you expect of yourself to validate that and win again? How do you deal with expectations of yourself?
That's a great question. I think there is an inevitableness that the expectations do go up a little bit. I think every player always has to have the belief that they can achieve, whether that's keeping their tour card, whether that's winning an event. You have to have that belief before you go out and achieve whatever it is that happens. But I think it's always important to try and keep yourself in check and keep yourself very honest, because the things that I think each player does to get those things is not purely based on expectations or wishing or hoping. It's based on a lot of the day-by-day, step-by-step things that you have to do. So I think it's having that level of validation and extra confidence through a good result like that helps in the process, but I think you've still got to be very disciplined to keep going through your process and keep working extremely hard, because the game is always moving forwards, the level is always getting stronger and deeper, and you've got to keep moving with it, otherwise you find yourself struggling a little.
Performance, I've always been fascinated by how you guys do what you do. When the body and the mind agree, it doesn't happen continually. It doesn't happen for long extended periods unless you're Nicklaus or Woods or people like that, and then they put together careers that are so confounding it's hard for us to even understand how they did it. When your mind and your body are agreeing, can you explain what that feels like?
That's a great question. I think there's definitely an element of just extreme presentness. And I think you're so focused on all of the little steps that you're making, whether that's in your swing, whether that's even walking in between shots. It feels like a very peaceful place to be. The results don't seem to matter. And I think that allows you to get out of your own way to be able to play the golf that you're capable of. But it's almost like trying to catch the wind. The more you try and get yourself into that state, I feel like it becomes more difficult. It's a state that I think just takes a being rather than a form of trying. But obviously you have to do the right things around it to kind of give yourself a chance to fall into that zone. And I think that's always the balance that I think every golfer, and I think every performer probably struggles with, the effort and the time that it takes to acquire the skill, but how much you need to let go of the result and whatever happens in the situation to allow that skill to truly come out.
I had this conversation with Darren Clark right before the Masters, because I had this conversation with him before, and I love it. And what you just said to me is so interesting, is that you can't think about getting there, and you can't think about it when you're there, because on all of a sudden you're going to lose it. It's one of those things that you probably can only talk about it in reflection, because if you can talk about it while you're in the middle of, quote, the flow state, then the flow state is now gone. Isn't that right?
It's so true. It's so true. And I think the more you try and understand yourself, what is happening, the more chance you have of consciously breaking that state that you're in. And I think it's something, as you said, that you can describe upon reflection, but something that you've got to try to just allow to happen when you find yourself in those periods.
The Wyndham Championship, which was formerly the Greater Greensboro Open. It's the first professional event I ever went to as a little boy. My dad took me there. It was the first time I saw Arnold Palmer, and my dad, pointed at him and he said, "That's the Clint Eastwood / John Wayne of golf." So my first introduction to professional golf was the place where you won your first event on the PGA Tour. Those moments, particularly the waning moments of that, do you find yourself thinking about that on occasion? Or is it only when you think about media responsibilities that are coming up when it comes to defending that you say, yeah, okay, boy, those were special days? Just tell me about reflecting on something as special as winning on the PGA Tour.
I definitely found myself in the off season last year thinking about it a little bit more. It's truly a lifelong dream and ambition. And yeah, I think I've found myself going over certain shots, certain situations, how I felt throughout that day. We actually played 36 holes in one day, so there was a lot of golf on that day to go through. But I definitely thought about it a lot during the off season. I think once this season has got underway, I probably haven't gone back there a huge amount of times. At times this year when I've struggled, whether that's in an event or whether it's in a round, sometimes I will think of certain things that happened that week, but for the most part I haven't really reflected on it too much once this season has started.
It's good timing for me because yesterday Jordan Spieth sat in that chair, and one of the things he talked about was gratitude, and how gratitude for him really does put him in a better state of mind. I think it would be true of anybody, but he also said that he thinks gratitude can have an effect on performance, and that his appreciation of what he does, he thinks will serve him well going forward. I will tell you, you've always emoted gratitude and appreciation for the things you had, valuing the things that your dad imparted upon you. Do you think gratitude affects performance? I know the answer. It's a rhetorical question. Why do you think it does?
I think it gives a level of perspective, for one. No matter what happens this week, no matter what happens this season, for me or for any player on a golf course, we're extremely, extremely fortunate. And I think viewing the game as something that we're lucky to do, as a blessing, I think is just, it's an amazing mindset to just take to golf and take to competitive rounds. And I think it helps us to just enjoy where we're at as well. That can very easily get put to one side because of how competitive each and every one of us are, and how results and scores kind of define how our tournament goes. So it's sometimes very tricky to separate ourselves from the score, but I think gratitude kind of helps us to rise above the tournament and rise above the score and just appreciate the game and appreciate where we're at. So I think it goes hand in hand with performance, but I think similar to what we spoke about with the flow state, the more sometimes you try and be that way, the less you actually just be. And I think there's a difference between just genuinely appreciating and trying to force appreciation and gratitude. And again, I think that's something that probably everyone struggles with to an extent.
Before I let you go, first 2 days, Tommy Fleetwood, nice grouping, nice pairing for you here. This golf course, when you approach it and you develop your game plan here, where's the underbelly? Where are the places to take advantage of? And where do you know that par is a good score and fractionally you're picking up something on the field? Give people a sense of trying to get around this place and doing it effectively.
I think there are so many difficult holes around here, and even the holes where there are opportunities, you've really got to put yourself in play first and foremost off the tee, and you've got to be extremely accurate with your second shot. Hole number 3 is a great example. It's a short par 4, pretty wide fairway, and you're only going to have a wedge into your hand. but the penalty if you miss is generally a bogey if you miss in the rough, and it's certainly a bogey if you miss in the water. So I think the holes where there are opportunities, there's always that element of risk reward, even though you're coming in with a short club, and it just demands precision, and it demands, I think, a lot of patience, even on some of those easier holes, because there'll be certain pin locations, certain winds, or a certain number that you have where you can't go at it, even if you've got a gap wedge or a pitching wedge. And I think just that discipline is absolutely crucial on the scoreable holes and on the more difficult holes on the course.
Last thing, the European Ryder Cup side is deep, and Europe is having a tremendous year, led by what Rory has done, but so many other guys winning golf tournaments, having great finishes, it seems like week after week. Do you allow yourself to think about that at all? Or do you think about what quantitatively or in terms of performance that you need to do to realistically be in that conversation when it matters most, which is, the month of August?
Yeah, more so the latter. I think there's still a number of months until the team gets selected. There's a lot of golf to play, there's a lot of big tournaments as well. And I think whenever there's a Ryder Cup here, there is always talk about the team and the selection and the tournament on the horizon. But yeah, I think each player has to try and do the best job week by week, and as cliche as that sounds, if you keep stacking good results and good golf, you put yourself in the conversation, and I think that's all you can do. So yeah, we'll do our best and we'll see what happens.
Thank you for coming over. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That is Aaron Rai. We continue here. Again, he is off with Tommy Fleetwood on Thursday. Round one of the Memorial here from Muirfield Village in Dublin, Ohio. We continue 5 clubs on Golf Channel and also Channel 92, Sirius XM's PGA Tour Radio. We're back right after this. Welcome back in. It is a Wednesday, and on Wednesdays, we celebrate God's creatures. I don't care where we are, Dublin, Ohio today. Next week, we're going to be in Ridgeland, South Carolina. Dogs will be honored right here on 5 Clubs. So who do we have this week? We certainly thank Peter Millar for their sponsorship of this program, and they've got this segment. Again, when it comes to refining performance, luxury, and style, nobody can outfit you for whatever you're doing in your life better than Peter Millar. All right, let's take a look at the dogs this week who have some type of relationship with the game of golf. That is the Cradle. That is Gus, short for Augusta. The owner is Bo Davidson, hanging out at the Cradle, designed by our own Gil Hance. That is fantastic. That is Otto, submitted by Kevin Taylor. Otto spends his days with Corey Weslam, the director of Greens and Grounds at Argyle Country Club in Silver Spring, Maryland. That's Hudson. His owner is Paul Nelson. Hudson is an English Labrador Retriever. That is at Glen Arbor Golf Club in Bedford Hills, New York. And finally, that little puppy is Melvin, owned by Luke and Mackenzie Kelly. He's 8 months old, playing at Palm Valley Golf Club in Goodyear, Arizona. Thank you for sending the dogs in, and if you want to send a dog in that you know has some type of relationship with the game of golf, going to a golf course, send them to us. It is dogs@5clubsgolf.com. Of course, they have their own email address because they are the most important things on this program. The next thing that's not quite as important to me, or at least it has appeared that way, is me picking people to win golf tournaments at the professional level. As we look at the standings, because we always give you the updated standings on Wednesday, that's our final show of the week. And of course, we are doing it now because we got a lot going on in the second hour. We have another hour here with you. This is not the end of the program, it's just the end of the first hour. Johnson's been outstanding. Emma Carpenter as well. I've been brutal. Brendan DeYoung has somehow figured out a way to be twice as bad as me, which is unimaginable. So those are the standings. There were a lot of miscuts last week. People like Daniel Berger, they're like Maverick McNeely. I had Harris English, a very modest gain, and I mean very modest gain. So we have 2 events, significant events, not only this one, but let's start with the U.S. Women's Open because the second major championship in the women's game at Erin Hills. And of course, live coming up later today from Erin Hills, getting you set on the eve of that great historic championship. I've taken Jin Young Ko, Gil Hanse with Minji Lee, Charlie Hull for Emma, Lydia Ko for Taylor Zarzer. Yuka Sasso has been fantastic winning this championship for Brennan Young. Gino Titakul for Jay Billis, and Nelly Korda for Johnson Wagner. Nelly she's had a good year, but she's had kind of an odd year, including that opening round at the Chevron, the first major. Now, let's get to the Memorial and this event, this Signature Series event. I'm playing the defending champion. I know I can use him 5 times this year. I'm playing Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick for Gil, Tommy Fleetwood off a very good performance at Colonial. Taylor goes with Scotty, then Patrick Cantley, Tommy Fleetwood for Jay, Kyle Morikawa, who's won on this property for Johnson Wagner. So again, this is a decorated field. All of the best players with the absence of Rory McIlroy. I do have some thoughts on what Jack Nicklaus had to say about Rory's absence. We'll do that in the next hour. Like I said, we've got another hour to go. We'll talk more about the details of the changes coming to the Tour Championship. Also, Europe has announced the actual dates for the Ryder Cup at Adair Manor in 2027. We haven't even gotten to Bethpage, and we know the dates for 2027 in Ireland. From Long Island to Ireland, the atmosphere at those two places is going to be incredible, just like they are here. By the way, Rob Lowe is teeing off, a native of Dayton, Ohio. He's here. We take a break. Another hour to go here. 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and also on SiriusXM's Channel 92. We're back with you right after this. Welcome back in on this Wednesday. It's great to have you with us. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel, and this hour, this segment, brought to you by Century, our presenting sponsor. Means so much to us that the things that they invest in when it comes to their relationship with the First Tee, with the USGA, and for them to align themselves with us means a great deal. This is Pro-Am Day. Like I said, the gallery that is over my shoulder, they can't see from this angle. This is the 10th tee. We're just down from the 10th tee. Rob Lowe, who the players here are kind of genetic freaks in that they do what they do. In some ways, isn't he? Because you can't or shouldn't look like he does after the age of 60, but he does. And he's from Dayton, Ohio, so he's here. I think he's playing with his son. And that's the nice thing about a day like today. You have Peyton Manning, you have Steph Curry. You have Ryan Day, who I said earlier when he teed off at 7:34 with Justin Thomas, it wasn't because Justin Thomas was playing. With all due respect, Ryan Day is the head coach of the Buckeyes. He is a deity in this town and really in this state. All right, in this hour, here's what we have coming up. Todd Lewis is going to join me because the news that was kind of filtering through the golf industry last night is related to changes coming to the Tour Championship. And the changes is that it's kind of going back to the way it was before they decided to have a staggered start. So we will have some updates from him coming up. Hale Irwin. Hale Irwin almost won the first event here in 1976. He lost in a playoff. He came back here year after year after year. He won in 83. He won in 85. And it's really not a surprise because a lot of people think the closest thing to a U.S. Open is this, and he won the U.S. Open 3 times. So that is what we have coming up in this hour on the program. I have added a sweater, and you're going, that's no surprise. Nobody likes to layer up more than I do. It is a cold gray day. It would not surprise me if the Buckeyes came out of some tunnel here because it's like mid-50s. And as I also said, this is Muirfield Village, which was named after a place in Scotland. Feels a little bit like a Scottish day. It is for real tomorrow. And of course, you have the U.S. Women's Open. Later today as well, you also have a national championship that is going to be determined in the state of California, Oklahoma State, University of Virginia. that is going to be decided as well. I wanted to touch on something because usually by Wednesday, you're not talking so much about who's not here. It was a surprise last Friday because at 5 o'clock, you know what the field list is for the following week. And Rory McIlroy's name was not on it. It's surprising to some degree that Rory's record here is not better because you would think that this place would agree with him. He's never won the golf tournament. He's never really contended deep late on a Sunday, and that's not the reason he's here. He has a personal relationship with Jack Nicklaus. They see each other on a regular basis, and that's kind of one of the things about this event that is so unique is that a lot of the players here actually do have a relationship with the host. None of them really ever saw him hit a competitive shot of any significance. Consider the fact that he turned 50, Jack did, in 1990. I was lucky as a little boy that my dad took me to the first major championship that I ever went to. It was the U.S. Open in 1980. He won that week. He was 40 years of age. He would go on and win the PGA. Later that year in the month of August, he won by 7 over Andy Bean. So I saw Jack win his 16th major. Did I actually see him hit any shots? No. Well, I was about the height I am now, but I was short then as I am now. So I didn't really actually see him do it, but I was on the property. But think about these players who come to this event every year, and think about the fact that many of them reside in South Florida. Quite a few of them are members at Bears Club. So they see this guy who's done all that he's done in the game of golf. And if they take any time, and Golf Channel some years ago when they were putting together the Jack documentary, they had him sit down and they handed them a sheet of paper. And on it was a list of all the things that he had done. And every one of them kind of stopped, not at the same line. They could stop at any line and they'd go, really? That's not possible. 73 wins, 58 seconds, 34 thirds. And then they look at the major championships and the 18 wins and the 19 seconds. And just pause for a moment and think about that. That's 37 times either first or second. There are four of them a year. That means that for essentially a decade, Jack was either first or second. So these players who never saw him hit a really important competitive shot are around him on a regular basis. He's mythical. And he hosts this event, and he lends advice to them. And so that is why this event, among so many other reasons, is so special to these players, to the PGA Tour, and to championship golf that is contested around the world. And as we've said, we had Jack and Barbara on in the first hour. She's the honoree this year. That's why this day is special, that luminaries who lend their voices and their vision to what's best for the Captain's Club and who should be honored and how can we celebrate people and their impact and their contributions to the game. It's the personal touches that continue to make this event what it is. And Hale Irwin, as I said, is going to be joining me at the bottom of the hour. So we'll get his thoughts on his history here, being a member of the Captain's Club, and what exactly do all of them collectively contribute. Like the chairman of Augusta National, who's playing in the Pro-Am here today, Fred Ridley. It is the driving force of why the first 50 years of this event has been so distinctively different, and why the next 50 is going to be in very good hands, because Jack II, who was here yesterday, and Jack III, who sat next to him, who is now involved in this tournament, is why the future is going to be what it is. Great. All right, we're going to take a break here. When we continue, Todd Lewis is going to join me. His thoughts on what he's heard from players, the reaction to what's going to happen to the Tour Championship, and what it means maybe beyond just this year, 26, 27, because that's when you start looking at sponsorship renewal and maybe Does the event and other events in the playoff series start looking at other venues? It is Hour 2. It is 5 clubs, not only here on Golf Channel, but also it is Channel 92. So if you're leaving your house, it means you can listen on the radio on Sirius XM. We're back with Todd Lewis of Golf Channel right after this.
What's your favorite flavor of milkshake this week at the Memorial, and why?
Buckeye. Obviously, it fits the theme of being in Columbus area, and peanut butter and chocolate are kind of my 2 favorite flavors. So, yeah, that's the one I'm going with this week.
I like, the Heath bar. So, like anything with, like, probably vanilla, Heath bar, banana. Yeah.
Probably the Buckeye. Just keep it simple. I don't really get too adventurous with those, but yeah, it's a little peanut butter, chocolate, both things I like, and they never disappoint.
I'm pretty simple, Oreo, but I won't allow myself to have one until Sunday. If I have too many milkshakes, I put it on too easy. So, but yeah, Oreo is my favorite.
Good luck to Shane because it is only Wednesday. The idea that he can be disciplined through Sunday night, we'll see. Joining me now, good friend, obviously somebody when it comes to trust among players, getting information, reporting. Nobody is as good as Todd Lewis. Good to see you, T. Lou.
Hey, good to see you. I'm enjoying doing some laps in the pool of 5 clubs for the first time. Congratulations on your show here.
Thank you. You knew that change was likely coming to the Tour Championship format. At the beginning of the year, the idea of it being kicked around that some institution or some element of match play might have been in 2025. That's not the case. Let me start with you before getting your kind of immediate reaction you've gotten from some players. Your own reaction, surprise going back to kind of what it was before, just we're going to start at 0, essentially.
Yeah, I was a little surprised because as I thought about it initially, I said, okay, you're taking away the advantage that a player that came to Eastlake had essentially earned in the fact that they played well through the regular season and obviously played well in those 2 playoff events prior to the Tour Championship. But the more I thought about it, first off, the Tour Championship is a big event. I have it as big, now some historians in golf may disagree here, but as big as a major, as big as the players. And if you look over the last 2 years at the players that have stepped up in those events, I'm talking the majors, the players, the Tour Championship, I mean, you're looking at Scotty Scheffler, you're looking at Xander Schauffele, you're looking at Bryson DeChambeau. Of course, he's not eligible, he's not a tour member. You're looking at Rory McIlroy. So the bigger players in big moments have stepped up. And I think that's the case for the Tour Championship with this format, where if you qualify for the Tour Championship, you have a shot to hold the FedEx Cup. So I applaud this because I think this is going to bring some more intensity, obviously, in the competitive arena, but obviously, too, it's going to bring some more attention to this event. And who wouldn't want to watch 30 guys go at it for all that money?
Yeah, I felt when they made the choice to do this, I don't know, my intuition told me that it was not sustainable, that there was too much immediate negative reaction to it, that elite professional golf is not handicapped, that the reason why we admire what they do is that there is a meritocracy to that. They all start at 0. Mm-hmm. But I also understand that when you associate a brand like playoffs in general to something, you want to give some advantage to those who have been better than everybody else over the course of the regular season. But Todd, I would say that, you know what, the advantage, we know, you know as well as anybody, the intelligence of the golf fan. We know who had the best year. If somebody has a run in the playoffs, then they are running the playoffs. And let it be whatever it's going to be. It's not going to diminish whether it's Rory or Scotty, and you decide he had the best regular season. He had the best year. This guy had a great run. He took a flyer. He won the Tour Championship. He wins the playoffs. I'm okay with that. Are you?
Yeah, I'm 100% okay with it now that I've thought about it and digested it a little more. And who wouldn't want to see, let's say, Ben Griffin. Ben Griffin, who qualifies 25th, and he's got a shot going in the final pairing with Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy. And you've got an underdog, you've got obviously a guy who is an established favorite. you know, there have been many Super Bowls, many World Series, many NBA Finals where you've had an underdog upset the guy who was supposed to win or the team that's supposed to win, and it is riveting television.
Absolutely. The other part about the institution or the idea of match play, whether it is more golf or the idea of you have stroke play to then get to match play, whether it's 8 or 4, whatever, there's something on the horizon every year beyond that that a lot of these players in the Tour Championship are going to compete in. It's either a President's Cup or a Ryder Cup, and the idea, okay, we're getting here, it's the end of the line, we're gassed. And it's not like we disappear for 3 months. We have something that is more taxing psychologically, emotionally, intellectually, and physically than anything like 3 weeks later. That's why I think the idea of match play is a challenging thing for them to think about, knowing that President's Cup or Ryder Cup, which is match play, which is the most combative thing they do all year, is a couple weeks after this thing.
Well, I will tell you this, and how this was formulated. First off, this was player-informed.
Yep.
Player-driven. This is not something that came out of a boardroom in Ponte Vedra Beach at the PGA Tour headquarters. The players were involved in this. There were dozens, close to dozens, I would say, of scenarios, formats that were discussed in player advisory council meetings. And they went through all the scenarios of what would be great, what would not work, and so I think ultimately they came to this resolution. But I still think it's a work in progress. I would not be surprised in 2026 that this changes again.
Okay.
And when I say that, it could be something as simple as maybe a smaller field. Maybe
even
not,
smaller than 30.
Maybe smaller than 30.
Wow.
There are still conversations about that we're going to do this now, but we may change this in 26. So we'll see how this develops.
Okay, so if this is a placeholder, that's one aspect of it in terms of maybe field size, and who knows, another tweak possibly of the format. The other thing that I had mentioned is that if you start looking at sponsorship renewal, and that's the following year, 2027, and it's not to say that East Lake has not always been a fabulous venue for this. History is on its side. The more important thing, and you know this better than anybody, again, is the Cousins family, the impact that the revitalization and the resuscitation of East Lake has not just been about that club and that golf course. It's about the impact it's had on a community and generations of kids and education and elevating them in life in ways that were not going to be possible beforehand. Do you think that East Lake as a venue is a sure thing for the next decade, or do you think that is being evaluated beyond 27?
Well, I would say anything is possible.
Yeah.
But the feeling I have right now is that the PGA Tour has a firm, beautiful footprint in Atlanta. Not only with all the things that you mentioned in regards to the East Lake Foundation and the charitable contributions to that community and how they have developed lives for those who may not have opportunities because of this Tour Championship, because of what the PGA Tour has been able to do. You have great sponsorship there with Coca-Cola and the Southern Company. And I think East Lake has established itself as a really challenging venue. And I will say something else that was released by the PGA Tour yesterday, and the fact that they are going to ratchet up the intensity of that tournament. The tour officials are going to make this a really challenging layout and setup. So I think, to answer your question, I think they have a really solid home in Atlanta, and I think that my personal opinion, it's going to stay there maybe forever.
Let me expand on what you just said, because that, in terms of trying to interpret that, the interpretation is just what you said, that they are going to make this not diabolical, but maybe there'll be players that will use that term. That look, Bermuda rough is really sinister.
Yes. Because
Bermuda rough, the ball just bottoms out. It finds the bottom. So you have Andrew Green and what he did, and that was introduced last year as far as the golf course itself. You have Bermuda grass greens, that these strands of Bermuda now in the month of August, if you want them to be 15 on the stimp meter, they can be 15. So if they have gnarly Bermuda rough and greens that are like that, rolling 14 and a half, then that is bordering on sinister and diabolical.
Well, consider this. You know how good these guys are.
Yeah.
I mean, they are unbelievably talented. The tour hinted in their release yesterday about this new format for the Tour Championship, also saying that they are going to increase the intensity of the setup, that they want to try to have the winning score. They feel like the fans want to try to have the winning score that is close to even par. If you get a winner that is even par with this talented a group of PGA Tour players, it is going to be really, really hard because they are that good. So I am interested to see what this setup is going to be like. Now, Mother Nature will have some say in this as well, but I'm interested to see what East Lake is going to look like at the Tour Championship.
Wow, the U.S. Open, which has always been associated with Father's Day, is now going to be more associated with Labor Day.
Right, exactly.
I mean, my gosh, at the end of the season. Look, if that is it, we get it so infrequently. It's interesting. The Arnold Palmer Invitational is now, I think most people think that's among the most challenging setups on the PGA Tour. You get that the week before the Players. If they give us a setup that even par may be in contention to win the golf tournament, again, Todd, we don't get it much.
No.
It could be sit forward kind of TV. Let me ask you about this event. For all the events that you cover, and you cover all the most important ones, what is so redeemable about coming here every year?
You know, that's the question I get a lot more than any other question in my job is like, what's your favorite tournament? Well, immediately the first 2 weeks in Hawaii in January aren't too bad on the PGA Tour schedule. But this is right up there for several reasons. I've been coming here, as you have, for a long, long time. Number one, it's a fantastic golf course, obviously, and I know you've talked about it throughout the week. Secondly, the field here is elite each and every year. Obviously, Jack and Barbara, what they bring to the charitable components here in Central Ohio, but them being the hosts. But I think more than anything, the community has embraced this tournament as its own and supported it so beautifully. I mean, this is a respectful, fun party here in Central Ohio that I really enjoy coming to. It is one of the check marks on my calendar that I cannot wait to get to. I mean, it is a great event, and you look at the players that have won here. I mean, it's just an incredible resume of elite players. So this golf tournament, I mean, I think it's one of the crown jewels on the PGA Tour schedule.
Absolutely. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was you who asked this question regarding Rory McIlroy and him not being here. And the question was, so it sort of surprised you, I guess, that he's not here. Was that your line?
It wasn't my question, but it was inevitably going to be asked.
Okay. And I thought Jack's answer to it was in no way a shot, a slight. He said he was surprised. Saying he's surprised doesn't mean, he didn't say I'm disappointed. Saying he's surprised is, I think, an honest reaction, because guess what? Who wasn't at least mildly surprised? But then if you start looking at Rory's schedule and what he's done really over the last several years going to Canada and what that has meant for that event when he shot 61 and he won the event, and then obviously the Travelers on the back end of the U.S. Open, there's sacrifice that comes with this, but I think because it's an additional signature series event. He didn't play in the Heritage. He didn't play in Century. It's like, gosh, that's another big event that he's absent from. What did you make of what Jack had to say in answering to the question of Rory's absence?
Well, it was interesting that he said he was surprised he didn't really throw Rory under the bus. They have a good relationship.
Yes.
I mean, he practices and plays out at Bears Club, which is Jack's golf course down in southern Florida. But I reading the body language, I did kind of feel like he was disappointed. He didn't say it,
right? But
who wouldn't be? That you don't have the guy who just completed the career Grand Slam at your tournament that you host, and that's understandable. But Rory's been interesting over the last month. Obviously the elation of winning the Masters, something that obviously he has wanted to do for more than a decade. Then having the disappointing performance at the PGA Championship, opting not to talk to the media for whatever reason, and that's still a mystery. And for him to not play here, but at the same point, to exactly what you said, he's going to play Canada. He played Houston.
It's a huge uptick for that event.
Correct. So in essence, he's helping the PGA Tour playing those events more than he is by not playing this event. You could argue that. But, Rory... Rory's set his schedule. He's obviously got it down to a good formula so far in 2025, and it's his option. I mean, he's not required to play here.
Yeah, the other thing that Jack said, just paraphrasing, I've got the transcript right in front of me. He said, players, it's his call.
Right.
I made a lot of calls that I had to make when I played or did not play.
Right.
And of course, he was the first one of the modern era, so to speak, that really built his schedule around those 4 weeks. So there were a lot of markets. In the area that you grew up, Greensboro, North Carolina, was sacrificed.
Right.
Because when he won the Masters for the first time, it was because by accident he couldn't play Greensboro the week before. So what is he going to do? When he goes back to play in the Masters in 1964, he's going to go back to the event that he had missed the year previously. They're all superstitious.
Right.
I like you, yes, disappointment naturally, but I don't think he threw him under the bus in any stretch.
I will say I was surprised to hear him say that he did not have a conversation with Rory.
Yeah, me too.
I thought Rory would reach out and talk to him, and maybe he has today or did last night. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was a little surprised that they did not have a conversation again because of their relationship and the fact that he calls the Bears Club home.
Okay. Before I let you go, between your karaoke gigs, you're trying to be disciplined with what you eat when you're on the road. I know you indulge in a milkshake, at least one over the course of the week. Do you not?
I probably will. Yes, I will probably have one, just one. I'm turning 58 next year, and Father Time, he's undefeated, as Tiger said.
I'm right ahead of you on the odometer.
And so, when I get out of the shower and look in the mirror, I don't want to say, man, my nickname should be Mudslide. So I'm trying to stay away from milkshakes. But these are so good. I mean, do you know how these are made? I mean, it's straight Haagen-Dazs.
No, it's so decadent. It's so gluttonous.
Haagen-Dazs, whole milk. There's no low-fat skim in there.
No, this is Ohio. Man,
right.
This is the real thing.
So I'll have one.
Okay.
But it won't be a Buckeye.
All right, very good.
I'm not a fan of the Buckeye.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not saying
chocolate?
I'm not a fan of the Buckeye, and I'm not sitting here saying I'm rah Michigan. By the way, I'm a fan of Ohio State fans as well. But the Buckeye, just not a big fan.
Yeah.
I'm straight vanilla, like my personality.
No. Anybody who's seen you karaoke knows there is nothing vanilla about your performances. Thank you for coming by. It's always great seeing you.
By the way, Johnson Wagner, good karaoke guy too.
Is he really? Mm-hmm. Wow, the skills we're discovering.
Ask him when he's on your set next time.
From the man who's ascending in this medium in a way that is unimaginable. Todd Lewis of Golf Channel, appreciate his time. We continue with you. It is a Wednesday edition of 5 Clubs here from the Memorial Tournament, Muirfield Village, Dublin, Ohio. We're back right after this.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just such a great proponent of representation of the game of golf, not only his success on the course, but what he's done off the course as far as, his charitable contributions and all he does for the communities that he's involved with. Course design, I mean, he's just, the face of the game as far back as you can think. So it's always fun being here and being kind of in his presence. And yeah, he's just, the guy everyone thinks of when you think about the game of golf.
I think it's cool when you get so much bigger than just your game. He designs courses, he holds these tournaments, and he does it with, the highest of class and the highest of quality. And I play at Bears Club down in Jupiter, so I know what he's like, and he's very friendly to me. He gives me good advice, and he's very, subtle with his advice, which I like, yeah.
Well, he's, had such an amazing career, such an amazing person. He's done so much for the game. This event, getting to know him at the Bears Club in Jupiter, Florida, as he's just an awesome man who's done so many great things for the game and, set us up to be where we are today.
I mean, when you think of Mr. Nicklaus and what he's done for the game and the the career he's had and even the tournament he's created here. And like, I've been very fortunate. I'm a member of the Bears Club and I live there down in Florida, and I see him almost every day. But yeah, like the greatest argument obviously with him, between him and Tiger, but you know what he's done for the game over the course of his whole life has been incredible. And us players, certainly we wouldn't be able to have the lives we have without people like him. So you know, we owe a lot to people like him.
That is a neat thing about these players, the modern player, to really have what is a true connection, like Shane Lowry alluded to Jack Nicklaus, because of the Bears Club. And it's interesting because, you know, Jack and Arnold Palmer, who had arguably, and I don't think there's much of an argument, the greatest rivalry, and they were 10 years apart, but because they had those important interludes, it started really in 1960, even though they did not play together in that final round of the U.S. Open at Cherry Hills. It was Jack, who was an amateur at the time, who was the one who was pushing Arnold Palmer. And Jack, by the way, who was paired with Ben Hogan, of all people. That's why that was the best interlude in modern golf history in a major championship. But Arnold had that. He had that at Bay Hill. And then there was an exodus to a large degree of a lot of top players. Because when you go back to the decade of the 70s and into the 80s, and players like Payne Stewart made the choice to make Bay Hill their home. And so they were seeing Arnold Palmer on a regular basis. So here is somebody who was the mythical figure when they were kids, and probably they too had not seen Arnold Palmer hit competitive golf shots, but there they are around him on a regular basis. And Arnold, of course, has his event at Bay Hill on an annual basis. And then Jack, who made his way down to South Florida and made that area his home. And then the Bears Club was built later on. Then all these great players, because Jack knew what the best players needed, even though he was far removed from his best playing days, they're not there by accident. They're there because he has provided them with the best environment to prepare themselves, not only by being around each other, having games, staying sharp competitively, but also having just impeccable practice facilities as well. So Shane Lowry said, look, I get to have conversations with him on an everyday basis, which is such a neat thing. And as I have tried to share with you over the last couple of days, some of these things about his record that seem unimaginable, there are a couple things that, to me, before we get done, that I just wanted to share with you that I think are the ones that are never going to be touched. One of them, you may say, has something to do with luck. Luck is an integral aspect of golf because of the nuances and vagaries and really the dumb luck that is associated with the game. But starting in 1962, when Jack turned professional and he won his first professional golf tournament, which was that U.S. Open, beating Arnold Palmer in a playoff, was the fact that starting in that year, he decided that the most important events, his entire year was going to be built around them. It didn't mean that he played 10 or 12 times. No, he played a full schedule, but he played less than his contemporaries because the money wasn't as plentiful then as it is now. So it really was something where, to put meat on the table, you had to play, and you had to play well, where, you know, finishing 19th didn't mean $100,000 as it does today, and everybody plays when they play. But Jack Nicklaus embarked on a career that meant that in 1962, when he not only won his first major championship, he didn't miss a major championship start from 1962 to 1998. Think about that. We are at a time where Adam Scott, it appears, next year, will play in his 100th major championship. Jack Nicklaus played in every major for 3.5 decades consecutively. And oh, by the way, not only did he win that first U.S. Open when he started that streak in 1962, in 1998, when the streak ended, the following major, which was that U.S. Open of 1998 that was played at the Olympic Club, in April of that year at the Masters, at the age of 58 in 1998, he finished tied for 6th. Wrap your head around that. Wrap your head around the idea that the guy not only played in all of them, but somehow, some way, come hook or crook, he figured out a way to actually finish in the top 10 in one of the last majors that he ever played in. Extraordinary. Let me give you a couple more thoughts as it relates to Rory McIlroy and him not being here and what Jack had to say, and why I think it needs to be crystal clear that anything that Jack said yesterday should not and cannot be construed as being a slight, a negative, or a shot at Rory. As he said, we all have calls to make, and he made his call. And as Todd Lewis just said a couple of minutes ago, was there some level of disappointment that Jack probably has? Yes, but he didn't use that word. He used the word surprised, which is also, I think, an honest assessment of how he felt when the deadline came last Friday and he wasn't in the field. He did what he did for all players, the players that he played against, the players who beat him, because he was the most pragmatic loser, so to speak, that we've ever seen. You can say, well, he could afford to be because he won more than everybody else. There are a lot of guys who won a lot who struggled with how to handle losing. He didn't get what he wanted, but he didn't say anything that people should interpret as being critical of the player, because the most important thing he said is that I had to make calls as it related to my schedule. Rory had to do the same thing. But who is here is somebody who I think, and let me devote just a couple minutes to Scottie Scheffler, because Scottie is in a stretch of golf where he is playing a lot. And I think as we get to the month of June, and by next week, it'll be June, it'll be the RBC Canadian. Scottie Scheffler not in the field, Rory is in the field. Rory got off to the start that he did, and it was reminiscent of what Scottie Scheffler had done in 2024. And that was, oh my gosh, he wins Bay Hill, then he wins the Players, and he goes to the Masters, and beyond that, he wins the Heritage, and all of a sudden, he's on this incredible heater. And Rory does that in 2025. Great players answer to greatness that they're seeing in the game, and Scheffler's done it. And he may defend this week. We will see. When we come back, somebody who knows what it's like and what it takes to win here is going to join me. And as we get close to a U.S. Open in a couple of weeks, Jack was very good at that. A guy who is going to join me was very good because he did it 3 times, 74, 79, 1990. Hale Irwin, part of the Captain's Club and a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame, joins me on 5 Clubs when we continue with you on this Wednesday morning right after this. Welcome back into 5 Clubs from Muirfield Village. It is Pro-Am Day. It is also Honoree Day, and Barbara Nicklaus is going to be honored a little bit later on. That decision made by the Captain's Club, someone who is part of that, is going to join me in a moment. This segment brought to you by Golf Pride. Players at every level trust Golf Pride more than any grip, anywhere, all around the world. Just to give you an idea, to get to the Hall of Fame, you got to be great. You also got to be hyper competitive. The gentleman who's joining me won the U.S. Open in 1974, again in 1979, also in 1990. He came here for the first time in 1976, lost in a playoff. Not to be deterred, he would win this event twice, 1983, again in 1985. But to give you an idea of people who are competitive, they don't just stop. In 2014, I was on a shuttle bus with this gentleman, and I shared with him that I was going to try to run the New York Marathon a couple months later. And he said, you know what, when this bus stops, I'll race you from here to the elevator at the hotel. He won that race. I think he cheated, but nonetheless, he joins me now. He's also a Big 8 all defensive back at the University of Colorado. Hale Irwin, did you cheat? Did you get a head start when you and I raced to that elevator?
I think you slipped and fell coming out of the bus.
It's good to see you.
Always good to be here with you, Gary. You have a great show, and what you do for the golf community, I think, is wonderful. I enjoy it very much.
Thank you. What you do every year to come back here, support this event, support good friends in Jack and Barbara. Winning here, I don't think it's accidental that you were so good at the U.S. Open. This event, when it was founded, was as stern a test, was it not, from the outset in 1976? And probably make you felt like you were at a major, didn't it?
Absolutely. We had it was brand new, and versus what you might see today, what the viewers might find the ball landing and kind of holding in the fairways. For instance, the second hole, it has a creek down to the right. You had to hit your drive up into the left rough to keep the ball from running down into the creek down there because it was so firm. And now the course is, through the years, it's played firm some years, and if you have weather, it plays soft. But it's always met with the players that come here are met with a very competitive golf course, regardless of how it plays. The greens, I've always felt like the greens were the trademark of this golf course. The hole locations and where they kind of had plateaued greens, and some of the greens have been modified through the years. As all courses, they mature and they modify, and Jack certainly has a tweak to that. But these players are playing one of the better golf courses you'll ever play. Is it fair? Absolutely. Is it unfair? No. To be as good a golf course as this is, and as good a tournament, that you have to sometimes ride that line of what is right and wrong. And I think Jack, being the greatest player that's ever played the game, knows how to do that.
The honoree today is a friend, like I said. She's also somebody who you've been a member of the Captain's Club with for some time in Barbara Nicklaus. She was with us earlier with Jack. Give a sense of, Sally, and the things that you want harmony at home. The only way you can be as focused as you can be when you did what you did was to know that you felt like everything else in life was in good hands. And I know you needed that. And obviously Jack got that with Barbara. Just give me a couple thoughts about Barbara Nicklaus and her role in the game of golf, and specifically here.
Well, there'd be no Jack Nicklaus without Barbara Nicklaus. I think the old saying of behind every successful person there's someone else, and certainly we see that here with Barbara. Jack has put the Nicklaus name on the board, but Barbara's really kept it there. She have a wonderful family. We've been friends of theirs for quite a long time, and Barbara's pretty much been the forerunner with the tour wives on how to do it and what to say and how to act and be the right person, find the right level of participation, when to speak, when not to speak. But then again, you've got a pretty powerful husband in Jack, but she knows how to turn that on and off. And I think that's what I love about her, is that she doesn't play a role. I'm not even saying that. She is Barbara Nicklaus. She is what she is, and we love her for that. But it just so happens the combination works very, very well for both of them.
The honoree, as I said to them earlier, one of the neatest things about this, and from the outset, and Jack was saying that Joe Dye was instrumental in that, if you want to honor people, it's not only about educating people about people who came before them, but also shining a light on foundational pieces. How much has it meant to you to be a part of the Captain's Club, to be a part of that vision and identifying those people on an annual basis?
Oh, it puts another aspect of my life which I didn't know I would have prior to being on the Captain's Club. It brings a perspective to things that you really might not know when you're so focused on playing and getting the ball in the hole. Sometimes you forget what's out there that kind of is the benefactor of all this. And Barbara and Jack, they've really shown the light on how to do that. And Joe Dye was very instrumental in that. And when you have people like that leading the charge, you learn from it and you appreciate it more and you understand why it's being done. And that's what I try to do now, is I try to take it out to some of our younger people and say, this is how it's done. Learn from history. Learn from the great people that went before you. You may think you know it all. You may think that AI is the greatest thing around, but history does teach you something. And I think it's important for us as captains to try to carry on the tradition and have a voice in what happens in the game of golf. How can we take golf, which is a world game now? It's not just the United States and the UK, it's all over the world. How can we make the game better for the masses and the people that enjoy it for what it is?
You have a lot of bold type on your career accomplishments. I mentioned winning here twice, 40 years ago, 1985, but you won before that in 1983. Winning here, the significance of winning Jack's tournament on this golf course It is bowl type, is it not?
Oh, it is. It is. You left out another playoff loss. I've lost.
Yeah, well,
two
I know. Do we want to give Roger Maltney credit?
Well,
he hit
give
the
Kenny
post?
Perry credit too. Well, I think for me, when I came here, it wasn't a U.S. Open, but it was real close. It was close because I think it was the excitement, it was the prestige, it was this is made for tournament golf, and that's what I so enjoyed about a lot of the professional tournaments, or any tournament for that matter, is the competitive nature that is brought out by the golf course, by the sponsors, by the city itself. Mm-hmm. Everything says here tournament golf, and it's easy for me to get caught up in all that, enjoy it thoroughly, and I even though I'm not playing now, I love to come here and kind of smell the roses now. Before I might not have been able to do that, but I really enjoy it, and seeing the people walk around and hearing what they say and seeing how they go about their business. And it's a remarkable event.
It is. Last thing, and how nourishing is it? Look, you still get to events. I saw you at Augusta National at the Masters. I certainly hope to see you at the U.S. Open at Oakmont. The other members of the Captain's Club, to renew these friendships, how enriching is that to see these people on an annual basis?
It is so much fun. When you think you've had your own little insular world here, and I'm here in Paradise Valley, Arizona, and I'm doing my thing. I see you at Augusta. But there are people out there that live in Australia, Japan, China, South Africa, India, wherever golf is played, and South America. They too enjoy the game. Mm-hmm. They may speak a different language, but what brings us together is our fascination with the game of golf. And if we can help perpetuate that enjoyment for the next generation and the next and the next, but learn about life through golf. That's what I think the lesson is, because there's a lot of things that, I didn't hit it in the water, you did. It wasn't my fault you hit it in the water, so you have to understand that. You have to take responsibility for that. And, okay, I've got to fix that. Learn how to build on successes and forget the defeats, because golf's got a lot of challenges, a lot of boxes to check.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you learn so much from it. And to me, it's just lessons in life.
Well, it's a great way to end this show with somebody who's a two-time champion here, a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame, as importantly, a member of the Captain's Club. I don't know if you're going to take a sip of this milkshake. I'm going to. I want to thank everybody here at Muirfield Village. Hale Irwin, among many guests, Jack and Barbara Nicklaus, Jordan Spieth, Aaron Rye, who joined us, Brent Snedeker, Eric Cole, Rex Hoggard, Todd Lewis, Jack Nicklaus II, Jack III. Hale, thank you. Have a wonderful day today.
Gary, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, for all of us here, not only Signature Sports Group at 5 Clubs, enjoy the Memorial Tournament. We're back in studio on Monday.